Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
In 2013, a 26-year-old woman named Emily had just moved to Portland, Oregon after a rough breakup. She needed a fresh start and a place to live fast. With limited funds and no local friends, she turned to Craigslist. After a few sketchy replies, she stumbled across an ad that felt like a miracle. Room for rent, quiet neighborhood, $400 a month, females only. The ad included a few blurry photos of a tidy-looking home with a small room, a clean bathroom, and a cozy living room. The owner described herself as a quiet older woman looking for a respectful female roommate. Emily responded, and within hours she received a polite message back from someone calling herself Linda. She said Emily seemed like the perfect fit. No background check, no deposit, just bring your things. Emily was a little surprised at how easy it all seemed, but she didn't have much of a choice. She took an Uber to the address Linda had provided. It was a 2-story home on a dead-end street, the kind of place you'd never notice. The house was older but well-kept, tucked behind overgrown hedges. Linda met her at the door. She was small, maybe in her late 60s, with long gray hair and a kind but distant expression. She wore a turtleneck sweater despite the warmth, and her skin looked pale and thin, almost translucent. The inside of the house had a weird smell, like mothballs and something metallic, but Linda quickly dismissed it, saying she had just cleaned the drains. Emily's room was small but clean, with a twin bed, a dresser, and a tiny window that looked out at the neighboring house's wall. That night, Emily fell asleep easily. She was exhausted from the move. But sometime around 3 a.m., she woke up, not from a noise, but from silence. The kind of silence that feels too heavy, too intentional. She sat up in bed, heart thudding. That's when she saw it. Her door was cracked open. Linda had told her the house had no pets, and Emily distinctly remembered closing it. She got up and shut the door again. As she was turning back toward the bed, she heard a soft creaking noise behind her, barely audible. She whipped around, heart pounding, but saw nothing. Over the next few days, Emily began noticing little things. Her toothbrush was damp when she hadn't used it. Her clothes smelled faintly like Linda's perfume. And once, when she returned from a job interview, she found her laptop moved slightly on her desk. She wanted to confront Linda, but the woman always seemed just off. Her smile never reached her eyes. She often stared too long, and she always wore that same turtleneck, no matter the weather. One night, Emily couldn't sleep. She sat in bed scrolling through her phone when she heard a floorboard creak in the hallway. She got up, pressed her ear to the door, and heard something that made her blood run cold. Breathing. Slow, heavy breathing. She reached for her phone's flashlight, flicked it on, and yanked open the door. No one was there. But to her left, down the hallway, she saw something that made her stomach flip. Linda's bedroom door was open, but the room was empty. And worse, there was a faint, wet footprint on the wooden floor heading toward Emily's room. Emily backed into her room and locked the door. She barely slept. The next morning, she decided she was leaving, no matter what. She packed her things in silence, but before she could sneak out, Linda appeared at her doorway. "You're leaving?" she asked softly. Emily froze. "Yeah, I got a place with a friend." Linda just nodded, but before Emily could step out, Linda suddenly grabbed her wrist. Her grip was shockingly strong. "You should know," Linda said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The last girl didn't say goodbye either." Emily yanked her arm free and bolted. A few weeks later, unable to shake the unease, Emily searched Craigslist for the same ad. It was still there, identical, word for word. But this time, curiosity got the better of her. She reverse image searched the photos from the ad. They were stock photos, not of a real house. Panicked, Emily went to the police and explained everything. She expected them to blow her off. But the detective she spoke to grew quiet as she talked. When she mentioned the address, he leaned back in his chair. "That house has been empty for years," he said, "ever since the woman who lived there vanished. She was a recluse, used Craigslist to find roommates. At least 2 went missing before she did." Emily showed him the ad. The detective's face paled. "We shut down this listing months ago," he said. "Someone keeps reposting it. They went to the house, but it was completely boarded up, the windows dusty and broken from the inside. No signs of anyone living there. To this day, Emily doesn't know who or what was living in that house. But sometimes, late at night, she checks Craigslist, and the ad still shows up. Same photos, same price, same description, and always females only.
Story number 2.
In 2016, a guy named Darren was living alone in Milwaukee. He was 29, worked freelance IT gigs, and had a habit of buying secondhand electronics from Craigslist to flip for profit. Phones, laptops, cameras, anything he could repair and resell. One night, he saw an unusual ad posted just minutes earlier. Vintage camcorder for sale, $40, comes with tapes, must go tonight, cash only. The ad had one blurry photo of a handheld Sony camcorder from the early 2000s. It looked beat up, but old camcorders were weirdly valuable online, especially to collectors and horror fans. The location was only a 20-minute drive. Darren texted the seller. The response came almost immediately. Come alone. Don't knock. Door will be open. Leave cash on the table. Weird instructions, but Craigslist was full of eccentric sellers and the price was too good to pass up. Darren grabbed 220s, his car keys, and headed out into the foggy night. The house was in a rundown neighborhood. It looked completely abandoned. Overgrown lawn, one window boarded up, paint peeling off the siding. But sure enough, the front door was slightly ajar. Darren hesitated. The whole vibe was off, but greed overruled his instincts. He stepped inside. It was dark, silent. The air was stale and thick with the scent of mildew and something fouler, like rotting meat. Hello? He called out, but no answer came. Just the soft creak of the old floorboards under his shoes. On a dusty table just inside the doorway sat the camcorder. No note. No sign of anyone. He placed the money down and picked up the camcorder. It was heavier than expected, with a faint sticky residue on the grip. He flipped open the screen. It powered on. There were 6 mini tapes tucked into a plastic bag, taped to the bottom of the camera. All unmarked. All just sitting there waiting. He left quickly, glancing over his shoulder. There were no lights in the house, no sound of movement. But still, as he walked back to his car, he couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was watching him from behind the curtainless windows. Back home, curiosity ate at him. He dug out an old converter and hooked the camcorder up to his computer. The footage was grainy, time-stamped between 2007 and 2009. The first 2 tapes were boring, a family's holiday, a kid's birthday party. But the third one changed everything. It started normal, 2 kids playing in a backyard. But then suddenly the footage cut to black. Audio stayed on, footsteps, breathing, a door creaking open, and then whispers, low, raspy, and inhuman. More cuts, a basement, a person sitting in a chair, arms tied. The camcorder zoomed in too close, shaky and frantic. The face of the tied person looked panicked. Blood ran down their chin. Darren's hands went clammy. Tape after tape, things got worse. The same basement kept showing up. Different victims, some begging, some unconscious. The camera work always jittery, always erratic, like the person holding it wasn't entirely human. Sometimes the screen would flash symbols for a split second, unreadable glyphs that looked almost carved into flesh. The final tape ended with a scream. Not a human scream, something lower, guttural, like an animal being butchered. Shaken, Darren called the police. He turned over the camera and the tapes. But days passed, then weeks. He got no updates, no callbacks. Finally, he went down to the precinct. The officer at the front desk furrowed his brow when Darren explained what he had turned in. There's no record of that, the officer said. Nothing logged from you in evidence. Are you sure it was this station? Yes, Darren insisted. The officer gave a tight smile. You want to file a missing property report? Darren left unnerved. That night, he started getting text messages from an unknown number. No words, just images. Screenshots from the tapes, still frames of the basement. Close-ups of the victims. One showed Darren's own face, taken through his apartment window. He moved the next day. A month later, a new Craigslist post appeared in a nearby city. The same camcorder photo, the same price, same message. Vintage camcorder for sale, $40. Must go tonight. Come alone. Door will be open. No matter where he moved, every few weeks, Darren found it again. Always listed under a different seller, different address, but always the same camera. And every time he sees it, he knows the watchers haven't forgotten him.
Story number 3.
In 2019, a college student named Marcus was looking for extra cash to help with tuition. He was studying psychology in Chicago, lived alone in a studio apartment, and juggled part-time work when he could get it. One evening, while scrolling through Craigslist's gigs section, he came across a listing titled, "Sleep Study Participant Needed, $200 night, must be open-minded." It sounded a little vague, but the post went on to explain that a private researcher was conducting a psychological sleep study in a residential environment. Participants would stay overnight in a guest room outfitted with discrete cameras and audio recorders. The ad mentioned lucid dreaming and subconscious boundary testing. Marcus, curious and desperate for money, responded. He got an email the same night. The sender called himself Dr. Ames and asked Marcus to come for a 3-night session, starting the following evening. The address was in the suburbs, about 40 minutes from Marcus's place. No phone number, just a message. Arrive by 9 p.m., bring nothing but sleepwear. The next night, Marcus took the train and walked the final stretch to the house. It looked ordinary enough, a gray 2-story home with drawn curtains and no car in the driveway. He knocked, and a tall, thin man in his 50s opened the door. He wore glasses, a cardigan, and had a voice that was calm but completely devoid of warmth. "I'm Dr. Ames," he said. "Come in. You'll be staying in the sleep room." He led Marcus down a hallway into a guest bedroom. The room was unnaturally quiet. The bed was made with crisp white sheets. A small digital clock sat on the nightstand, reading 8:59 p.m. There were no windows, only one camera visible, mounted in the top corner. "No phones, no clocks of your own," Dr. Ames said. "Just relax. Let your mind drift. I'll speak to you again in the morning." Then he left. The door shut with a soft click. At first, Marcus tried to treat it like a hotel stay. He laid in bed, stared at the ceiling, and let himself drift off. He woke up suddenly, unsure why. The clock read 3:11 a.m. The room felt different, colder, wrong. As his eyes adjusted, he noticed something that made his chest tighten. The camera's red light was off. The power light. Gone. It was dead. That's when he realized he wasn't alone. There was someone, no something, standing in the corner of the room. A figure, not moving, watching. Marcus froze. It looked humanoid but unnaturally tall. He couldn't see its face, only a long, almost robe-like silhouette. No breathing sounds, just stillness. He shut his eyes tight, convinced he was hallucinating. When he opened them again, the figure was gone. The next morning, Dr. Ames entered with a clipboard and asked how Marcus slept. Marcus tried to laugh it off. "Fine, I guess. Weird dreams." Dr. Ames just nodded. "That's good. Dreams are how it finds the cracks." "What?" Dr. Ames looked up. "The mind must be tested to let it through. Your fear creates space. That's what we need." Marcus stared at him. "Wait, what the hell is this study about?" But the doctor just turned and walked away. Night 2 was worse. The camera light never came on. This time, Marcus pretended to sleep. Hours passed. Then, just like before, he heard something. Soft, dragging steps across the floor. A low hum like electricity mixed with breathing. When he dared to peek, the figure was inches from his bed. He didn't see a face, just a blank, featureless head where one should have been. Skin like wet paper. And behind it in the corner, he saw another one. Smaller, watching, tilting its head in sync with the larger one, like synchronized predators. Marcus screamed, bolted from the bed, pounded on the door until it opened. Dr. Ames stood there holding a small recorder. "Excellent reaction time," he said calmly. "They respond more aggressively to vocal distress. That confirms the threshold theory." Marcus shoved past him and ran from the house without his things. He called the police that night. When they investigated the address, the house was empty. Abandoned for years. No furniture, no signs of anyone living there. The neighbors said it had been vacant since 2014. Marcus's belongings, phone, clothes, wallet, were never found. The worst part? Weeks later, another Craigslist ad appeared. Same phrasing, same payment, new email. But this time, it was listed under Marcus's name,